This is the Retirement Solution Podcast with financial advisor Jon Hicks, founder of J. Hagan Capital.
We're getting into the feeding frenzy. The Thanksgiving holidays are just about here.
I have been needing a little tryptophan recently.
Don't we all?
Isn't it odd that in the United States of America, we really only think about roasting turkeys
once a year?
One time a year.
What is that?
In our house, it's twice because we'll do it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But it's essentially the same. Yeah, it's the same 2 months. It's that same section of the year. If you went to your home and you walked in the door, let's say it's June or March, and all of a sudden you walk in and it smells like roasted turkey, are you thinking, what exactly are we doing here? Why are we roasting turkey? Mm-hmm. And yet it's delicious all the time. And how often do I get a turkey sandwich for lunch?
And there's nothing better than like that real traditional oven roasted turkey, like Thanksgiving turkey leftovers. I prefer leftovers than I do actual dinner time on Thanksgiving Day.
I agree with that. Because you get all the stress out of the way and you're just like, man, just give me the best stuff. I want some of that turkey and some of that gravy.
All of it.
Now I'm starting to...
And now we're all hungry.
Now it's starving.
We apologize if you're listening to us on WHAS this morning and we've just triggered all the turkey cravings. Sorry, not sorry, though. Let's talk about the work that you do because your job is never finished, sir. I'm grateful for that. I know a lot of people are. We need your insight, particularly with one specific headline that we've been hearing a lot ate the layoff conversation that has
it's a big deal.
I feel like it's coming strong and hard at the end of the year. It's been dominating many headlines. Big companies like UPS, Intel, Microsoft, and Amazon, we have seen let thousands of workers go. Many of these workers just on the cusp of retirement. For somebody who might experience that, or I think for a lot of people, especially people at this phase of life, this phase of career, they're in upper management positions. They might have insight. Maybe they think that a layoff might be coming their way.
Sure.
What should they do to prepare and plan for circumstances that are essentially out of their control?
As bad as of a subject it kind of is, it's important because we're seeing it all the time. This is a headline that's becoming reality and even locally. So Amazon recently cut 14,000 jobs. UPS, nearly 50,000. I think the number I saw last was 48,000 jobs.
Okay.
Intel, 20,000 jobs. So there's some research that was done. I think it was ProPublica. I can't remember, maybe another group. But they found that 56% of workers age 50 or over are going to be potentially pushed out of long-held jobs involuntarily before they plan to retire. That's a big deal, guys. That's a big deal. So if we even think, hey, we've had this job for 25 years. This is where we came right out of school, out of high school even. This is what we've been doing. I'm just letting you know, we're seeing different statistics that are popping up that make me a little nervous. Now, coupled with the big piece of the puzzle, I believe it was either AARP or Fortune, and I know those are different groups, but I can't remember which one did it. You can fact check me later. They basically said that less than 32% of Americans have a written retirement plan. Now, when you combine two things, basically a punch in the face, if you will, by maybe losing your job at the exact wrong time, and coupled with that, not really knowing the direction to go, this creates issues, Heather. I mean, this is kind of one of those things where I see people come in the office, unfortunately, every week now. They're like, hey, John, I'm 61. Yeah. So I was close, but all of a sudden I didn't think it happened. They're giving me 3 months. And then they're saying that the severance, is only going to be a couple months. So that's 5 months, on top of 61. I won't quite be 62. What should we do? Right. And this is the big question. What am I going to do about health insurance? Which Medicare does not kick in until we're 65. And my wife is a couple years younger. No, she still has her job, but we should be worried about that. All of these ifs and fears and worries come into people. And unfortunately, if you don't have someone to bounce that off of, what we find is it can actually cause a panic response. So Heather, what I want to talk about today about this subject matter, because there's nothing we can do to control these companies.
Right.
There's nothing we can do to control their profitability or their shareholders or what they elect and what they decide. Yeah. We can't even, if we work really hard and really well, we can't even be guaranteed that we'll be able to keep some of these positions just how it is. So when you look at it, though, what I typically see is one of two things. There's a panic response, and this can be devastating. And what we typically see is within 30 to 90 days of someone kind of being told, whether they're 50, 58, 62, whatever the ages they are, we see the panic response makes almost everything worse because within 90 days, they've kind of unwound basically 20, 30, 35 years worth of work. So here's the things that I want people to do, because if they get it wrong, it could be literally catastrophic. Number one, claiming Social Security too early, if you do not have a backup income plan, can be one of the most devastating things you'll ever do, especially if you end up getting a new job that paid similarly to your old one. You may have the worst tax structure you will ever have in life if you make that decision. So we have to be careful. We have to understand where we're going to get our income from. We're going to talk about all the ways to handle this better in a minute. So I'm going to go through the negatives first. So number one, they just claim Social Security as quick as they can. That can potentially lead to disaster. Number two, they either become ultra conservative, saying, oh my gosh, the entire amount of money I got to keep it completely safe. I got to put it in bank. I got to put it under the mattress. I can't risk anything, which means you're never going to get the growth you need to actually sustain a retirement. Or you do it the other way. All that stuff, let's say you're 55, 56, 57, 58, and you were let go about 3 to 5 years before you wanted to. They're like, well, here's the stuff that's been kicking, the market's tail end. I'm going to stay in this hyper aggressive stuff. And then what happens is the market always turns over at some point. I am not saying it will, but unfortunately, when we've got one kick in the ribs, from the company letting us go, doesn't that just seem like Murphy's Law? Mm-hmm. That second kick in the ribs is going to come because all of a sudden those great high flyers we've had maybe just don't fly as high anymore, or worse, they take a huge pit. So when that happens, we have to understand this is where it's more important than ever. We have to understand how we're diversified, where our income is going to come from, and how to make sure we're controlling our risk. Because to go too conservative is just as bad as being too aggressive. It's just completely polarizing, right? It's like if you look at politics, one side sounds like a bunch of crazy idiots. You look at the other side. If you go to the far end, they sound like a bunch of crazy idiots. So the idea is somewhere in the middle is probably closer to right. Okay. So those are the two big two. They're claiming Social Security way too early because it's the minute they can get it. They still haven't figured out healthcare. Yeah. Number two, they just lose their mind when it comes to either being too conservative or too aggressive. And here's the last one, Heather. They raid those retirement accounts. Even though it took them 25, 30, 35 years to build that sucker up, all of a sudden, since they don't have that income coming in, they start just hitting it like it's the cookie jar and you got your favorite grandmother baked, fresh, hot cookies in that jar and they can't keep their paws out. And unfortunately, that creates an absolute nightmare. So that's what we want to avoid, right? Right. And yet we see it all the time. Now, the couple other things about that, Cobra is expensive as all get out. It still may be your best option until you can find other things. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about what we should be doing. Instead of a panic response, real quickly, we're going to talk about a strategic response. Number one, this is why we talk about buckets on this program every single week, almost ad nauseum. If you're sick about me talking about buckets, I'm about halfway to the point of making you understand we all need buckets. I know it's terrible, and yet it is elegant simplicity. Those stupid buckets will potentially bail us out when it comes down to potentially losing our job too soon, or a market careening off a cliff, or not knowing what's going to happen. They fix things. Because number one, if we know how our income can be satisfied until we get another job, it may take a year. It may take 2 years to get a job. If you do the buckets right, you don't have to make any crazy decisions like taking Social Security at the wrong time, screwing up your tax rates, bleeding into other accounts that you can't afford to suck down, and or more than anything, being either too aggressive or too conservative, right? If you do the buckets right, that is number one. Number two, do not take money too quickly. Don't take that first job that pops up just to put a Band-Aid over the wound, right? Band-Aids don't fix bullet holes. So if it comes down to you just lost income that you need, you might need some time coming back. Why is it so good if you have a bucket system? You can sustain for potentially 7 months or a year or 2 years without having to take the first thing that comes by. Because I see people happen all the time. They lose a job. They go to a different job. They hate it. It's miserable. They get a bad accommodation from that job. And then they can't get the job that they would have been qualified for when it finally does pop up. Right? So those are the ways that we want to fix things. Bucketing, believe it or not, as nonsensical as it sounds sometimes, can potentially eliminate the fear of being let go at the wrong time. As crazy as that is. And these are things that we talk about all the time on the show. Go back and listen to some other podcasts about that, or come into the office and I'll show you exactly how you can, no matter what happens, you can at least have a plan that will ebb and flow with your life needs to make sure you're never making the panic decision, which puts us always in the wrong time at the wrong place.
You have heard about Roth conversions, an effort to reduce your future tax obligations. But when is the time to do it? Is the question so many savers have. And that's what you, Jon Hicks, are here to help us understand. I'm Heather Branch. This is Jon Hicks, financial advisor, founder of J. Hagan Capital, here to share with us the how-tos in this conversation of the Roth conversion situation. The conversation about Roth conversions. Oh, by the way,
sure.
retirementsolutionshow.com is our website, where to go to learn more about Jon and his team and begin that conversation. We also have links posted in the show notes. But the conversation around Roth conversions has been such a hot topic for probably the past 5 years.
Pretty much, yeah.
Past decade.
The very tail end of Trump 1.0.
Okay.
Is when it started to be talked about, when they started changing a little bit of the tax regulation.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. So, well, whether or not you know, required minimum distributions are coming for you, RMDs. It is the IRS taking its share of your savings. So if you have done the hard work, you've done the Lord's work, you have saved to your 401k or TSP or some other type of pre-tax retirement account. When Uncle Sam wants to take his share is, according to Uncle Sam, I'm sure not soon enough, but the law has it written at 73 years old is when you're forced to begin taking your RMDs, your required minimum distributions. One way to possibly lower what you will have to pay in taxes is to convert a portion of your pre-tax money to a Roth and pay taxes now. But again, when do we do that? So this is Morningstar's Christine Benz and her thoughts on the process.
Retirement planners often say that post-work, pre-RMD, pre-age 73 now is a real sweet spot to consider those conversions. And the key reason is that you have a lot of control over your taxable income in those years. They may be kind of the high spending years of your retirement, but if you can curtail how much you're spending, how much taxable income you have, that means that you can convert portions of your balance at a lower tax rate. So that's why it's a terrific window to look at potentially doing some conversions in that particular period.
The fight against taxes, I know, is one that it is a torch you carry, sir. So
it's one of those things where when you realize in the state of this union, this country that we have, if you do better, you often get taxed more, right? And so to me, it's just one of those things where, hey, you know, I can understand that. When you pay your fair share, it goes from essentially 10% all the way up to 40. So, you know, when you're moving up that ladder, that fair share becomes a little bit bigger. So it's one of those things, especially because I watch retirees every day. They have done the hard work. They've done their job. They've put the money away. They sacrifice from spending, sacrifice from all these things they could be doing simply because they're trying to save money. And then when it comes time for them to retire, what they realize is there are very few places to hide from the tax code. They're looking at themselves going, oh my gosh, Jon, how come I have less income? But because of the way that I'm pulling out my income, I'm actually paying more as a percentage of what I'm spending in taxes. I'm like, I know. And unfortunately, it's just one of those things. And RMDs is one of those things that can really sneak up on us, because everyone at this point in time has probably heard the conversation or the idea of maybe you should do Roth conversions. But some CPAs are out there, some tax attorneys are saying it's not a great idea. Other advisors are thinking it's the greatest thing that you could ever do in your life. And for me, it comes down to one simple thing. If your objective is to pay the least amount of taxes over the course of your retirement, which I think is a noble cause, it means that you're being a great steward of your money. You've saved the right amount and you want the rest of it to not go to the government. You'd rather it go to your beneficiaries, your kids and grandkids and the churches and the civic organizations that you support, right? And so it's hard to do that if the government, quote unquote, confiscates that. So in my opinion, one of the greatest things we can do is find, if our retirement's going to be from 20 to 30, I mean, we're seeing anymore, maybe even 35 or 40 years in length, we want to pay the least amount of taxes to the government over that period of time. Now, we're still paying our quote unquote fair share, but we're utilizing the laws the way they're written for us to pay the legal minimum if we can. Sometimes it involves Roth conversions. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes it involves much more sophisticated things, or if we're selling our businesses, or if we're selling a strip mall, or if we're selling a vacation home or an investment property. There are many things that many of us can do to fix things, but the one that I constantly see trip people up, Heather, is not understanding the taxes due on RMDs at 73, right? So one of the things that Christine just said, and she was exactly right, she basically said at some point in time, the government's going to come at you and they're going to say, hey, we're going to need you to pay some taxes on this. But there is a sweet spot that we should be considering conversions right after we've retired, but before we get 73. In a perfect world, between 60 and 68. Now, it just depends. If you're going to work until age 67, that only gives you 1 year to potentially convert before that age group. So it really just comes down to a 4-letter word that no one likes. But that's math, M-A-T-H, and we have to do the math on it to find out, does it make sense for you to convert? Does it make sense now? Does it make sense in the future? Because what I'm seeing, guys, and what a lot of the people out there are seeing, they're seeing a U.S. debt that is spiraling out of control. We've talked about it on the show many, many times. We have over $38 trillion of national debt now. We'll be getting close to $40 trillion by the end of 2025, going into January of 2026. Guys, we're getting very close to where there is going to be very little choice. Then the government's either going to have to cut some of the spending, which, let's be real, spending is not done on roadways. It's not done on NASA. The majority of the spending is in the form of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and interest on the debt, right? That's it. So if the Fed decides to not lower rates quickly, they can't reduce interest on the debt unless we just skip a payment. And if we do that, we'll be a third world country. No joke. It's how it works. If you default on your payment, no one will want your bonds. And we then literally we have no value to our currency. So that won't happen. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to either have to raise more money, which means tax us more, or they're going to have to cut those social programs, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. As we're getting closer to retirement, what do we really hope they have money in? Social Security and Medicare. I mean, those are two things we've paid in for a very long time. We're relying on them to produce a stability of income as a foundation. For most of us, it's either a pension or our Social Security. That's that stability. That's what allows us to do other things. And then we need Medicare, because if you don't have Medicare and you don't have corporate insurance anymore, if you've seen what it costs to insure our lives now, it is mind-numbing to me. In our firm, and we have great insurance. I mean, I can't say anything about that. We're going up 32% year over year, 32% year over year. And most of us are pretty healthy. Doesn't matter. That's just the stuff that's happening. So it gets very expensive. We need to save as much money as we can from taxation to offset these other issues. Otherwise, the government is going to come after us. So think about it this way, and then I'm going to get into the mechanics of what we need to do.
Okay.
If you got a 20% tax, I'm just making this up so we can all kind of follow the numbers. Okay. If you put in $10,000 in a tax deferred account, like your 401k or IRA, put in $10,000 over the years, and you got a 20% tax break, you got a $2,000 tax break, $2,000 on that $10,000 investment. Now, assuming that we work for 20, 30, 40 years, many times if we just get a 7% rate of return, that $10,000 will have grown to potentially over $100,000 over the course of our working time. Those are just getting normal rates of return. This isn't crypto returns. We're not talking about getting lucky and choosing NVIDIA the day they were listed. Nothing like that. Normal returns. Now the government wants the same 20%. You're thinking, well, they give me a 20% break. Now I'm getting a 20%. Now I got to pay them 20%. Not a big deal. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you got a $2,000 break. But at $100,000, you get 20% on that's $20,000. The government's hitting us with an $18,000 difference on what we saved in the front end and what they're taking in the end. I see that potentially getting worse. Okay. So 2 things we need to do. You need to understand, should you convert? Well, it's a simple process of math. When do you want to retire? What other income streams do you have? Are you turning on Social Security early? Or are you playing the game that I like to do, which is what we call the 62-70 rule, where if you have different ages and you're a married filing jointly couple, we take the lowest earner and have them turn on their Social Security at age 62. Why? It provides an income stream. It provides a little bit of stability for retirement, but then the larger earner turns on their Social Security at age 70. Now, this is gaming the system as much as we're allowed to do anymore. There aren't as many loopholes as there used to be. But by doing that, we can potentially increase our total income from Social Security by 22 to 29% over time. That is some of the easiest money we're ever going to get if the math works. Should you convert? It's going to be based on if you're utilizing strategies like that. It's going to also be based on how much money you have in taxable accounts versus how much money in tax deferred accounts like our 401k or IRA. How much money do we have in real estate? How much do we have in investment properties? How much money do we have in Roth accounts or tax-free accounts? In a perfect world, every year we want our CPA or tax attorney or financial advisor who works with those, like we do it in my office. We have CPAs, tax attorneys, and financial advisors that are all literally trying to figure out how can this client do the best, not just this year, but for over the next 25 to 30 years, no matter what. It's a big one. If we do some things correctly, we can literally save hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if we're a good saver, this is not a joke. There was a couple that came in a couple weeks ago. They'd saved about $2.5 million, but they were going to retire a little early. They were only going to retire at age 61. I'm like, this is great. We got a lot of time to dismantle your tax obligations and put you in a better position. Once we went through the strategies that we would do to start looking at conversions, start looking at should we do Roths or should we do real estate or should we do trust work, we figured that even though they'd save $2.5 million, we were going to save them over $1.7 million in future tax obligations by getting the strategy right. Wow. Guys, those are real numbers, and that worked for them. Why? Because they have the retirement's a little bit different. They're retiring a little bit earlier, and they already had other assets to pay them. Okay. So the main thing to understand is if you're not taking advantage of tax strategies leading to RMD age, after RMD age, it gets a lot worse going forward. Doesn't mean that it won't work, but you got to think about that. If you don't have a skilled fiduciary that understands taxes and RMDs, make sure you call us today.
J. Hagan Capital is where you can connect with Jon and his team. RetirementSolutionShow.com is our website. If you have questions about required minimum distributions, Roth conversions, and how all of this affects you and your retirement and what of your money you're going to have to give over to the government, working to help you keep more of that money is the goal of Jon and his team, and they are ready to show you what they can do for you as well. RetirementSolutionShow.com is our website. That's where you can go to begin the conversation with Jon and his team. We also have links posted in the show notes. Lots of folks with lots of questions about taxes, Jon, but here to help you get some solutions and hopefully do the good work of helping you keep more of your money. That's what we're here for. So again, it's RetirementSolutionShow.com. It should be simple. It should be simple questions, Jon, that we have. And yet, the complexity that is figuring out what the heck to do with our money it's frustrating.
Isn't it amazing how simple questions can have very complicated and sophisticated answers?
Right. Like, what do I do with my 401k? Well, how much time you got?
Right. Well, I just remember like when at the time, probably 4-year-old came up and said, Daddy, where did I come from? Did I come from mommy's tummy?
She was 4.
Absolutely
you sure did. And the stork.
Right. And she goes, well, whatever her friend was, said that there's a stork. And I'm like, well, I don't know where she's being raised. No, I was being facetious, but I was like, no, kiddo. So here's the thing. And then here's the thing. It should be a simple-ish type thing. It's like, boy, your mother and I loved each other. La, 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 hookah, hookah, hookah.
At 4 years old, you were explaining this to her? You were a brave man.
Well, obviously I didn't get very far. I'm like, hey, do you want some brownies? Whatever I was able to
distraction,
get out of it.
Deflect.
But isn't it a simple question? Hey, where am I from?
Yep.
But then it has very complicated things. I think the concept of a 401k, everyone has heard the terminology. Mm-hmm. Ted Benna created it in the late 80s, early 80s, and it was actually utilized much later.
Isn't it? I like to raise my hand now. It's like, teacher, excuse me, teacher.
Yes.
Because wasn't it originally?
Oh, I like it. It's good.
Wasn't 401ks, isn't it originally like for like the super wealthy, a place it was like deferred compensation? I remember that being like a big thing in the 90s. If you made a lot of money, it was like a tax thing for you to be able to put your money off in this pre-tax account.
Kind of. Crazy thing is that it was already on the books. And what it was is companies were like, man, do you understand how much pensions are killing us? We got to pay all this stuff out. It's got to go to the workers. It can't go to the shareholders. It can't go to the executives. And what they said was, well, you know what we could do? The way that we like highly compensate executives for doing well, we could actually open this up to the worker. And of course, all the execs are like, that's a terrible idea. Why wouldn't it give them so much? I was like, well, hold on a second. If we could eliminate you having to pay into a pension, they got to pay into it on their own, and you only give them money if they have the initiative, put their money in. And all of a sudden the guys start going, that's not a bad idea.
Right.
And you don't have to be fiduciarily equipped to manage the money because we're just going to give them the options to do it on their own. And then corporate execs are like, this is awesome. And then they saw the savings for giving people the access to do their own 401k instead of pensions, where the company is on the hook to pay you from the time you retire and to the time you're gone, or whatever set of payments that you negotiate and work out and that kind of stuff. And they realized they were going to make money hand over fist. And here's what all those companies said. Well, if that's the case, why would any worker do this? And Wall Street said, you leave that to us. There's no problem here. Pay no attention to the man behind the green curtain. And what they did is they told us what we still hear today. You want freedom. You want power. You want to dictate and navigate your own financial future. And here's what they don't tell you: how to educate yourself, how to be financially literate, what these funds actually mean, what you're actually paying, how it's actually going to work, how often you can change your allocations, how often, all this stuff that actually matters.
Yeah.
They really gave not a care in the world of how we were educated. And so when you even talk, and we've had Ted Benna, we've had his clips on the show many times. We've covered him. He was the originator of the concept of the 401k. He said it has turned into a Frankenbeast that frankly will destroy more financial futures because people are unaware how to use it correctly than if we had just left it and allow people to do their own thing. And the crazy thing is that when you look at it, it doesn't seem so, I don't know, maniacal or terrible. But man, people just don't get it right very often. So the 401k is one of the most complicated things out there. And yet we all think we know about ours. We all think we know about them in general.
Also,
and what I typically find out is we don't.
So many of us have them. Is it not the number one retirement savings tool in America?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Without question, because if you go to work and they say something other than a 401k, unless they say, we got a guaranteed pension, you're like, whoa, sign me up.
Right.
I'd like that. I'd love to have a guaranteed pension.
Yeah.
If you poll young people today, they want a pension more than pay raises.
Of course.
That is the new, I'm sure that Bernie Sanders, he got in there somewhere and said, you know what, kids? You want to occupy the Wall Street. You don't want to deal with all that. You know what you want? You want them to write you a big, fat, greasy check every month from the time you're gone, or to the time you're done working, to the time you're gone. And there is something about that is very appealing. Not a joke. Every time that someone comes into my office and they have a pension that they can turn on, there's a little something, I don't know, the word isn't really cavalier, but they're just very comfortable because they know, dude, that hopefully on top of Social Security, if I get $2,500 a month coming from Social Security, $3,500 a month coming from that pension, that's $6,000 a month, not including anything my spouse is going to get. Dude, what do I need you for? Guys, that's the whole point. That is that cavalier. Unfortunately, so few of us still have those pensions. But there are ways that we can create pension-style income streams. You can do it with trusts. You can do some of it with real estate. You can do some of it with annuities. You can do many different insured type of accounts. You can use many types of things to create something similar. But I tell you what, there are very few people in this world that if they have a pension that they don't feel pretty good about their average week or their average month. It's just the truth.
Sure.
My granddad had a ton of them. I get it. I totally get it.
If you are like so many and do not have the luxury of a pension within your retirement plan, you can create your own streams of income. Jon and his team here to show you the how-to on that process. If you have questions, give us a call, 502-317-0840, a local independent financial advisory with offices right here in Louisville. Jon and his team, they're ready to help you understand your options as far as building out an income plan for your retirement, understanding your 401k, and so many other things in the planning process. 502-317-0840. You can also go to retirementsolutionradio.com. So we have the 401k option sitting in front of us. It's alarming how many of us have absolutely no idea anything about our 401ks. But we do often talk about the 401k X-ray process that you do at J. Hagan Capital. So what can somebody expect to learn? What do you go through in that X-ray process? What do you look for? And what does somebody come out on the other end with as far as knowledge, awareness?
Yeah, one of the biggest things we learned, may have been after COVID, when companies were having problems and they were getting squeezed, so many companies quit matching 401k contributions.
Yeah, that happened.
So when we were talking to people, they're like, hey, Jon, how much should I put in my 401k? It's like, I don't know. Let me take a look at it. Let's let my guys analyze it. Let's figure out what we should do. And then we found out, why on earth are you're not getting a single dollar for putting your money in their accounts? And it's more prohibitive. You can't take it out as much as the way you want to. You can't invest it the way you want to. You can't get all of the investments under the sun. You can't do all these things. You should never put your money in that plan unless you are going to save more than what you could put into your own IRA or Roth IRA or your own tax deferred annuity or whatever it is. Those are just vehicles, makes no difference. But that's when we figured it out. I was like, oh my gosh, people are putting their money into absolutely horrible plans, not because of the investments, but because it offered them nothing except lower control and lower ability to do what they would like to do and retire when they want to retire. So when we started doing the X-ray, the whole idea was just to find out, should they put the most money they can into this, or should they put a certain amount to get a match and then put the rest of it in their own individual IRA? Or should they go ahead and put some in their Roth? Or if they have a spouse, they could actually do a spousal contribution for their spouse. And that's when we started figuring out, oh my gosh, most of the people that we talk to, if your 401k does not match, without question, you are better off by just going to Fidelity or Schwab or Goldman Sachs or Vanguard and doing your own individual retirement account, your IRA, and funding that with whatever you can get a deduction for, right? Okay. It's a huge difference. So that's where it all started. And then when we started looking at the investment choices, Heather, I know that we've covered probably over the past 13 years on radio, that over the years, the cost of 401ks are almost lunacy for a lot of people. Now, not everyone. Some of those, some of the companies out there, I'm not going to say they're benevolent, but they're giving you a pretty good deal, right? You're paying, 0.5% or maybe even less on your 401k, and that's great. But the average bear that we analyze a 401k is paying over 1.25% to 1.5% all in. Okay. Now, that's not highway robbery per se, but it's probably 2 times the amount that you'd pay if you have a skilled fiduciary doing all of it for you, right? Because if you think about that 401k, you typically make your own allocations. What are they doing for you? Well, they give you online access and they send you, something that's thicker than the New Testament in the mail every so often. And it supposedly talks about all the stuff you're invested in. It doesn't really give you any insight, but it's just very expensive, right? So when we started analyzing those things, then we realized it's not about what we own. It's about why we own it. Right. Do we own it because it's going to build us a huge net sum of money and then we can start getting an income at a certain point in time? Do we need to flip the switch on that? Should it come from a Roth, which is a tax-free income stream? Instead, when we did the analysis, most people were better served actually having their own individual retirement account, putting it in whatever they wanted to, than do with the 401k. So that's why we offer the X-ray. It's really just to find out, are you with a great company offering you a great plan? If so, absolutely. Fund that as much as you can. Get all the free money from you can, because there's not much of that out there anymore. If it's not the right thing, then should you be doing tax deferral or should you be doing tax-free Roth? Should you be funding for your spouse? Should you be funding for your children? Does it make sense for you to do that? And if you're a small business owner or you own rental real estate or you have a side gig where you have your own LLC or small company, it opens up the door completely to your opportunities to put away a slew more money and either tax defer it or potentially get in a tax-free position. So when we do the X-ray, we want to encompass all that because it's not about the investment. It's not about the account. It's about what is that money going to do for you when you need it.
Now, we were talking off mic before we came on the air this morning, and I said to you, Jon, I said, shh, stop talking. We're getting ready to go on the air, and I want to talk about all this on the air, because if you are new to the program or you just haven't caught the various Jon and I we like talking money and we like talking food.
Oh, I love food. I like food almost as much. Now, probably more than money. I love food a lot 100%. More than money. I use my money to buy food.
That's right.
I really do.
That's right. The money is the tool.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
The money is the tool for the food.
Absolutely.
So, and Jon likes to cook, and so we were going to talk about chili. And also, yes, it does parlay into a conversation about money, believe it or not. But we were talking about the Costco soups that I like to buy. I've been taste testing some Costco soups. And I was saying the Costco, the in-house, they make it chicken noodle soup is not my favorite. I prefer the Whole Foods. And I don't come for me for how much Whole Foods charges for soup.
It's crazy. Well, whole paycheck. But so in our house, we call Whole Foods whole paycheck.
So many people do.
It doesn't mean that I don't love the quality. It doesn't mean I don't like what they do. It doesn't mean I don't like their offerings. Their produce is great, but it's so blasted expensive. Some of the kids are like, Dad, I want to get this at Whole Foods. I'm like, you better hope you get a lot of money in your piggy bank, guys.
Right. You better check your allowance. But then you hit me with this bit of information about your chicken noodle soup.
Well, the whole thing is that there's almost everything else out there on the planet that I could buy and love it much more than anything I would do. Chicken noodle soup is not that thing. Chicken noodle soup in my home is not only medicinal, my chicken noodle soup, and I'm trying to not pat myself on the back too hard because it is only taken nearly 50 years to get right. But it started with my grandmother's recipe.
Okay.
But now that we can use rotisserie chickens, which are so much easier to use, I do it literally every week this time of year. Because there is one rotisserie chicken. All I need to do is take the scraps from that. And next thing you know, with the seasonings that we put in, that most of it's from my granny's, what we call sachet, right?
Okay.
Instead of just dumping the stuff in, you put it in a little bag, and the little bag stews in there. You pull it out. So it is unbelievably clear. It is just great. And I promise you, really quality chicken soup, whether you put noodles in or not, my kids do both, it will completely cure almost any funk that we get this time of year.
But you were saying, because you're a cook, and you were saying it's the thing you make, your chicken noodle soup is the thing you make best.
It is the thing that when people taste it, they're like, what is this?
What is it? What's in it? Is there a secret?
Nothing special, no. But I mean, you have to take I know it's a secret. We can't do this on air. Okay. No, one of the biggest things is to develop that flavor. So we don't typically eat a lot of the skin from the rotisserie chicken. A little bit of it, yes, but there's a lot that we pull off. So that and the bones, you roast them at 300 degrees for about 25 minutes. That adds that little bit of a caramelization. So when you throw that in your pressure cooker with just enough water and your onion and celery and carrot or whatever, it changes the flavor profile. I also never dump any seasonings in. They all go into a sachet. So fresh thyme, fresh oregano, things like that. When it goes in the sachet, you pull it out and it keeps the broth unbelievably clear. So true.
Okay.
So crazy.
You heard it.
But it's done in less than 50 minutes. It's in the Instapot.
I think we're going to need to get a video tutorial of this, John, that we can post.
I'm all in. We'll do a podcast
on yes. Okay.
On how to make.
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
My favorite Jewish deli's chicken delicious soup. I mean, that's basically chicken delicious. That's what my granny called it. Chicken delicious soup.
Aww.
She didn't say it like Bernie Sanders, but I mean, she did say chicken delicious soup. And I'll be danged if to this day, it's so true how good it can be. But it has all those Jewish deli qualities that are so good that you schmaltz to go ahead and start and render it. It's fabulous. And it's not complicated. It's just,
I
beg to differ. It's a labor of love.
I'm a terrible cook. I'm terrible in the kitchen. I can mess up anything. I can mess up a grilled cheese. Don't you challenge me.
Oh, no. Okay, I can fix that too.
Okay.
I can fix that too.
Let's save that for another. We're going to save that for another conversation because we got to get to the meat of our work here on the Retirement Solution.
We need to get some chili.
We need to get some chili. It is soup season. Maybe at your office, you dear listener listening to us on WHIS this morning, have you done a chili cook-off? That's a big thing to do this time of year in offices or amongst family or maybe at a church gathering. So there was a guy on TikTok, his name, we'll call him Ryan for this conversation. He participated in a chili cook-off at his job, except for Ryan decided to take a bit of a shortcut.
So my company is doing this chili cook-off. I am now in the drive-thru at Wendy's. And I'm pouring Wendy's into a crock pot, and I'm about to win this. What was the best chili? It was
Ryan's Wendy's chili.
Wendy's chili.
First of all, nobody's going to argue with Ryan that Wendy's makes amazing chili.
Wendy's is delicious chili.
But in the world of shortcuts, I think we all have a mom or an aunt or a grandma or an uncle that has done the take everything out of the kitchen, throw it in a pot and call it dinner. Take everything out of the refrigerator. I mean, right before it goes bad, throw it in a pot and call it dinner. Now,
in Kentucky, we call that burgoo.
That's right.
And it's delicious.
When it comes to our financial planning, though, and our future success, what about shortcuts that can turn out to be bad circumstances? Like the bad burger in our retirement plan.
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned earlier is that even if I'm very biased, and my family is very biased about my chicken noodle soup, it started with my granny's recipe, but I had to evolve it a little bit, right? If I used her exact recipe today, I bet it would not taste the same way that I remember it. So the thing of it is a lot of us, when we're looking at our financial situation, many of us are using some stuff that may be a little old school, but it has not been brought up to standard, right?
Okay.
It has not been evolved. They're still using some investments. Like, for instance, this is a perfect one. So if someone is out there and you've saved better than $500,000, you're halfway to being a millionaire, but you're still using retail mutual funds. Forget the word retail. You're still using mutual funds.
Okay.
You've probably evolved. You should probably evolve and gravitate to other things like exchange traded funds, potentially individual bonds and individual stocks that fit your temperament. Why? They're substantially less expensive. You can protect your downside by using all kinds of modern advancements in finance where you can control your downside. You can use some ETFs that they automatically control your downside. They're called buffers or barrier exchange traded funds, ETFs. Does that mean they're right for everyone? No. But the point is, some of us, we just use that old school. It's like this, like Ryan used Wendy's chili. Wendy's chili is delicious, but do you know what I think it could use? A little bit of extra cumin, a little bit of extra oregano. If they did that, then I think it would be a little better. But sometimes you need to start from scratch. Sometimes you need to just use a different recipe. So in my soup recipe, the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people I see out there, they're just doing what they were told at the water cooler, or they just did what they did when they were in their 30s, but now they're in their late 50s thinking about retirement. They're like, I wonder if I should change that up.
Yeah.
Because the amazing thing, I've spent a lot of time going back and forth to our Texas office, and I have always thought my whole life that pork ribs, pork barbecue, because it's the part of the country I'm in, that pork was better. But the last 3 or 4 times I've been to Texas, I am not going to lie to you, the beef barbecue is something to talk about, right? This is different for me. So sometimes it's just exposure. So would I put a great North Carolina or a Memphis pork shoulder or whatever it is right beside Texas? I would still favor the North Carolina a little bit because I like the vinegary sauce.
Yeah, me
but
too.
I tell you what, sometimes it's exposure. So the reason that Ryan went ahead and did the thing he did with his chili is because he was already in the drive-thru at Wendy's, right? Kind of like maybe when we were filling out those applications or talking to our advisor that first time, and we set it and forget it and we just let it roll. But things have evolved. Things have changed. Because I'll tell you what, Jason's Deli and McAllister's have delicious chilies too.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, Steak and Shake, which is another burger place, also has good chili. So the main thing, but I want to get out of the story is it's okay to take a shortcut for many, many years. That's why it's called a shortcut. So Ryan took a shortcut on his chili. You may have taken a shortcut by putting your money in those 401ks or those IRAs and letting it rip. But things are so different now. There are so many ways to create a nuanced flavor or a unique thing that you prefer. And that's what we want to do. We want to find how can you take what you've done always, not completely change it, but give it small tweaks to give you everything that you're looking for, not from the working phase, but how do we get to that transition to the retirement phase? And retirement's not a negative commentary. It just means we want our money to work for us and pay us to not work, as opposed to work for a paycheck and be forced to go to that company to keep earning it, right?
Yeah.
So if we do it the right way, our money should evolve with our needs.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Solution Podcast with Jon Hicks. Begin the conversation about your savings plan with Jon and the team at J. Hagan Capital by visiting retirementsolutionradio.com. Be sure to listen to Jon's radio show, The Retirement Solution, Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 9 a.m. on News Radio 840 WHAS.
J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is licensed in your state, please call 502-690-5635. J. Hagan Capital Incorporated is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through J. Hagan Capital, LLC, NPN number 1882794.